What's up guys, it's Johnny Candido of Candido Training HQ, and today we're going to talk about one of the most important subjects, and that is exercise selection. This is an area I'd say I see the most errors, where people really don't know what to focus on in the weight room and what exercises to put all their energy into. You have to have a formulated plan in how you go about picking your exercises, so then you can have the most efficiency with your workouts. Because doing a bunch of volume for volume's sake will actually tend to not give you the best results and will usually actually discourage you from lifting weights, especially if you're a beginner, because you won't be seeing the gains relative to the amount of work you're putting in. So I've broken it down into 4 categories which you can assess any exercise and find out whether it should be implemented into your routine. The first is progression potential, second is carryover, third is uniqueness, and then fourth is compatibility. So I'll start with the first one, and that is progression potential. Now all this means is how will you be able to progress in this movement? To be able to progress, you really need 2 requirements. One, the exercise needs to be effective, obviously, but then 2, you also need a strictly defined range of motion, so the exercise can be consistently examined. So this is one of the reasons why the main powerlifting movements are so important and so easy to integrate into your strength program, because it's a very defined range of motion. For the bench press, you use a full range of motion, bring it all the way down to your chest, bring it all the way up. So then over time, let's say 3 months from now, then you can test your max and it'll be exactly the same as when you tested it before. So then you can tell if you haven't progressed, then you need to do something differently. And this is one of the main reasons why the half squat is terrible, because when you half squat, you don't know exactly when you change direction, you just estimate. So over time, what will typically happen is the person doing half squats will end up just doing shallower and shallower squats as the weight increases. And then even if you do have a well-defined range of motion, many other exercises simply won't be as effective, and you'll see this because you just won't progress as much. For example, if you leg pressed for 3 months and I squatted for 3 months, I almost guarantee you my squat will increase more than your leg press. So ignoring the carryover and other effects of the exercise, you can just clearly see it's not as effective because you're not progressing as much. And despite what anyone tells you, to get stronger and to get bigger muscles, you have to progress in the gym. I know a lot of people tell you just to feel the burn and all that. Well, I'll tell you this right now, that is typically promoted by steroid users, because in their case it is true. That's not necessarily as important to increase your performance in the gym. All that matters is just getting that pump. If you're a natural athlete or even a natural bodybuilder, you need constant progression over time. Okay, so the second requirement is carryover. And what this means is how well does the exercise carry over into other exercises. This also explains why the squat is such a great exercise. Because if I simply increase my squat max, guess what else increases? My leg press max, leg extension, hamstring curl, vertical leap, all of these things increase. And in fact, they actually typically increase more than if I did those things. See, if I squat, my leg press will actually increase more than if I leg pressed. That's why I really focus on a minimalist strategy when it comes to the weight room. You don't really need to do all these exercises. If you focus on the main movements, you'll have tremendous carryover and you'll be able to develop the musculature needed for other movements without actually doing them. So you won't really need to do a bunch of hamstring curls, for example, or you won't need to be doing leg extensions or these isolation movements if you focus on hitting all the muscles using the compound movements. The third point is uniqueness, and this really pertains to how replaceable an exercise is. A good example of an exercise that is completely replaceable is the bench press. I know that this is a core movement and a movement I personally have always stuck with, but if you really find discomfort in it, you can actually replace this with the dumbbell bench. Now the dumbbell bench won't be as good in terms of being able to test your max because it's a little more difficult, but it still is a very good option as far as replacing the barbell bench press. So the bench press would not score extremely high on the uniqueness scale. So once again, an exercise like the squat scores extremely well in this category because there's simply no other exercise that can replace it. It's unique in that you can't use dumbbells in any way to get the same effect at all, and you cannot use machines either. Honestly, I'd say the squat is the only one that would score a perfect 10 on the uniqueness scale, I'd say, because a movement like the deadlift can easily be replaced by a variation. For example, you could use stiff-legged deadlifts or even snatch grip deadlifts to replace that exercise, and it'd actually be just as effective, if not more effective, in my opinion. Okay, so the fourth way to judge an exercise is compatibility. And this is really focused on how does the exercise fit into your program, into your training regimen. See, exercises that work the same body parts are either a replacement exercise or a complementary exercise. And I'll give you a quick example to explain what I mean by this. Let's take a look at the bench press and then the machine chest press, where you just press forward exactly like a bench press, but on a machine. Now that machine is a replacement exercise for the bench press. So let's say for some reason you can't bench, or you don't have a spotter and you just cannot use the standard bench press, then that would be an inferior replacement exercise. So it wouldn't be a bad idea, if the options were nothing for your chest or using that machine, obviously you should use that machine. However, if you do in fact bench press, you should not use that machine after the bench press because it works the same exact motion, just in an inferior way. You've already worked your muscles sufficiently doing the first exercise. So an example of a complementary exercise would be the incline cable fly. Now this exercise typically wouldn't be seen as a very effective one. It's not a staple in any program, but this is a great complement to, let's say, the standard barbell bench press, because the barbell bench press doesn't really emphasize the upper chest and you're internally rotating your shoulders. Now when you're doing the cable incline fly, you can externally rotate your shoulders. Your triceps aren't worked at all, so let's say if your triceps are the limiting factor in the bench press, now you get to focus on making your chest the limiting factor, and then also you're focusing on your upper chest. So even if a movement scores very poorly on the first three categories, it still can be useful if it is compatible and complements your whole workout program and the end goal you want to see. So that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful. I'll probably refer to this in future videos because this is systematically how I analyze specific exercises. Make sure to like the video to support the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching, guys. Peace!